14 rounds down and we're at an interesting point in the season. Which teams can be trusted and who can't be counted on? This is Access All Areas thanks to Crypto.com.
This is going to bring the house down to the MCG to the punt right end. Butters beats everyone as usual. It's getting ridiculous how good this guy is. Oh, what about that? Huge big clock for Cam Rayner. Footy can be fun if you're a Carlton fan.
Happy Monday. Great to have your company. Damian Barrett and Matthew Lloyd are in. Welcome, gents.
Thanks, Nat.
Let's get straight into it because the Blues have found their mojo. They're back on the winners list after a win against the Suns yesterday. And Lloydie, they did the damage in that second term. 9 goals to zip, if you don't mind.
Yeah, their strength last year, Nat, when Michael Voss first started, was this powerful midfield, big-bodied midfield, and hadn't been the case all year. And they just destroyed this Gold Coast Suns midfield. You just don't see this many goals, and we'll hear from Stewie Dew shortly about how disappointed he was in his midfield. But Carlton hadn't kicked over 60 points, Damo, for 5 weeks, and they go and kick 120.
Yeah, in that 9-goal sequence in the second quarter, it was actually enhanced by it being a 12-goal unresponded sequence against the Suns. They desperately needed this, the Blues. You could feel the collective sigh of relief from everyone. I mean, the man on screen there, Charlie Curnow, was dishing off goals. The ball movement, Lordo, that was the key. Now, they've been trying it, they've been working their way at it. It finally clicked.
Oh, there's players just running, like playing on instinct. They haven't played on any instinct at all. That's why you marvel at what Collingwood and Port Adelaide have done for so long. Carlton have just looked a broken side in terms of no connection. Well, they had gained connection yesterday. It's amazing footy when you get some confidence.
They obviously lost those 6 in a row, Nat. The last 4 wins now, GWS, North Melbourne, West Coast and Gold Coast, they're opponents that are well below and around the same position on the ladder of them. So maybe that's where they were always going to be in 2023. I oversold or felt they were going to be better than what they have been. Maybe that's where they are, but at least they've now changed their game style enough now to think the remaining matches of the season might be better for them.
Not a great time to have a bye, though. You just get some momentum and you find your mojo, and then you've got a bye, so a short break, and then the Hawks. So we'll see how the Blues go. As you can imagine, and as Lloydie mentioned too, Gold Coast coach Stuart Dew was scathing at half-time. This is what he had to say.
Oh, it's unacceptable, 6 centre-bounce goals, so our lack of intent around the contest was beyond disappointing. So we've asked for a response from the group. Pretty flattening, to be honest, given the week we had. We thought we prepared well, but we still got a half of footy to go. They've been good, they've been strong in the contest, but we've shied away from it, which hasn't been the hallmark of our game. We've been really strong in that area, but not today.
He was pretty savage there and really disappointing that they just didn't respond after half-time. Lloydie, do you think there was a lack of leadership on field? I mean, I know Tuke Miller's missing, but no one stood up and took the game by the scruff of the neck.
Yeah, he was shattered, absolutely shell-shocked as a coach because you prepare well. Justin Longmuir was in the same boat over the weekend when your midfield just gets destroyed. So I think they've been pretty good. Matthew Rowell and Noah Anderson and these types have cracked in all year for him, but just got destroyed at the coalface, which is what he was so flat about.
Once again, though, we got to a juncture of the Gold Coast Suns' time in the AFL, and that was yesterday against a poorly performed team, and we left disappointed. I did anyway. Yeah. Again, really disappointed once again. I constantly want to believe in this club that it is on the right track, and yet you see that sort of performance in that, and I still continually question it. I mean, they're now 6 and 7. When they were 7 and 6 last year, and we know what happened beyond that point.
Damo, he says we lump all the years into one. So he's saying this is different. So we'll see over the next 10 weeks whether it is different or not.
He has been saying that. Yeah. And it's getting away from them yet again.
Well, it's going to be a tough review for the Gold Coast Suns and a couple of Suns in particular as we take a look at a few examples here. Now, Jared Witts is told that there is no Carlton ruck contesting this one, and just take us through what is going on here, Lloydie, because there's probably a couple of Suns who, won't like to watch this back.
No, obviously Jared Witts could have grabbed it out of the ruck, he could have smashed it back towards the boundary line, or he could have just used the advantage. It just shows they're off. He tapped it straight down to numbers. Patrick Cripps, gets out on his own at a forward 50 stoppage as well. So this just summed up their day. They were right off. from start to
And
finish.
look, you can see the score, and you can probably say they're not going to win the game of footy. They're not going to win the game of footy from there, but you can't check out like Charlie Ballard has here.
That's as bad a clip as I've seen all year from Charlie Ballard. Like that is just non-competitive. Mac Andrew's a young player too. He looks fatigued, Mac Andrew there, but so does Ballard. But that's a lack of talk. It's lack of knowing the rules. He can rush that through, but had no awareness and just wasn't tough or hard enough.
So we're in a situation now with a couple of teams faltering, that there is this log jam when we take a look at the ladder, probably from about 5th position all the way down to 13. We've taken the top 4 out of it as they look like locks for September. I want from both of you, who can we trust and who can't we trust here? And what is that sort of bottom 4 of the top 8 going to look like come September?
Well, I think percentage says a lot after this amount of games. So I rule out the Giants down. You look at that 97%, and you look at the rest of them have got a decent percentage. So I think we're down to 10 teams. This isn't bias. I think the Bombers are the best side consistently across the 5 to 8. So I think they make it. And I like Richmond and Geelong as well to get in.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. I like 9 and 10 there. We'll talk about Richmond in a moment, Nat. I really like what they're doing. They're going to cause carnage in some form, whether it's enough to make finals, but they will be there. And I mean, St Kilda's faltering. Western Bulldogs, they did well to get through yesterday.
Yep.
We'll touch on that soon too. But yeah, I think they're the vulnerable
And
ones.
Adelaide away from home.
Adelaide will win enough though to stay in, I feel, at home. Yeah.
OK, well, you mentioned the Tigers, 3 wins in a row. It was a wonderful way to celebrate Trent Cotchin's 300th game, and his best mate in Dustin Martin was in fine form, and for the first time in a while, he seemed animated and invested, and I'm not sure we've seen him get this pumped up in a while, Damo.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that. That was the match sealing goal by Taranto, and then there was the one on the icing on the cake one from Bolton. And have a look at, as you say, Nat, this investment in emotion to even engage with fans there in that moment with the big right forearm being punching through the air. So it was great to see. I've got no doubt the emotion attached to Trent Cotchin's 300th game sparked that in Dusty, and the fact that he even not just stopped for a post-match interview with the host broadcaster, but actually gave us something for the first time, I think, ever to a media outlet. He was fully in on that game.
Richmond is so interesting at the moment. I know you've written a column too on afl.com.au, which everyone should check out. But to me, did Dimmer just give up? Not give up, but did he leave too early?
Well, he did, but he had to, and I'm not. No one's going to question the reasons for him doing it. He was spent, wasn't he, physically, mentally, and he gave those decisions. But to now see what Andrew McQualter's done in the 3 matches of the 4 that he's played. Now, he lost by 10 points first up, and that was a good performance, clearly. 1-3 since. He's made slight changes and nuanced effect, haven't they, Lordo? With Cotchin going into centre bounce clearances, the roles return of a Baker and a Short. I love what they're doing, and their good players are playing really, really well.
And I think the players are enjoying the fresh voice, and that's where Kenny Hinckley's doing things really well, because when you've been at a club for so long, players get tired, and you've got to keep reinventing yourself. You know, it looks like Simpson's struggling, Johnny Longmire's struggling, so Kenny's doing a great job. Considering he's been there so long.
Do you see them still causing some real serious damage?
Yeah, they look like they've been rejuvenated by this change with Andrew McQualter.
Be interesting to see what twists and turns are still to come for the Richmond Football Club. Onto the Bulldogs now, and they had a good win against North Melbourne, but it came at a cost. You can see Liam Jones there. He was taken to hospital with a broken arm. He's going to miss multiple weeks. What do you think that does, Lloydie, to the Bulldogs' aspirations for finals? Because he is a significant player for them.
It's a great point you make, because he was the rock back there. He's the one you could trust. You can't trust any other tall back at the Western Bulldogs. So Keith is horribly out of form. Bruce and Gardner have been dropped. Tim O'Brien you couldn't trust, but he's done his hamstring as well. So you've got to throw Norton back forward, because I don't think they've got to try and win games, and he helps them win games. You can't try and save them with sending him to the back line. So it could be the difference whether they make it or not.
They were vulnerable yesterday, the Bulldogs. I mean, again, they played North Melbourne, who's now lost 12 in a row. But to lose Jones in the first quarter, to lose O'Brien, structurally affected them badly before half-time. And North, I think, was really disappointing. That I'd be keen to see what the match review office will do with that Curtis situation too. I know there's an element of in play, but we have been also conditioned to have a price paid for effect of contact. And
didn't look malicious.
It wasn't malicious at all, no. But someone broke an arm on the back of an errant foot. So again, it may be clear, but I'm just keen to see what they say.
From a Bulldogs perspective, Cody Waitman stood up. He had 6 goals, 4 of those in the first half. And when Norton went down come back to fill that role. It looked like their forward line still functioned pretty nicely, Lloydie.
Yeah, you can't let Cody run and jump at the footy, and North just gave him. He's like a small full forward, Cody. He's more he's not an amazing crummer. He's more a marking player, so he needs space like a tall forward. And they gave him too much space, too much run. And to his credit, in his 50th game, he's kicked a bag of 6 goals and was the best man on the ground. So yeah, he's just a great man to watch. He's so vibrant and loves the game.
Love the smile on his face. I mean, that smile that he had after he took that mark. And Marcus Bontempelli too. I mean, the way he led with the authority with which he's always carried himself. It just got them through those uneasy moments when they were down. Soldiers.
So the Giants are another team who are sort of making a charge, and in that logjam that we just talked about, it was a lacklustre performance from Fremantle. But the Giants, they're quite entertaining to watch when they're up and going. They're moving the ball quickly. They get Sam Taylor back, who's a wonderful defender, and then Josh Kelly, after missing with a hamstring, Lloyd, he comes back in and he was just superb. Yeah,
there's a fair bit to like about them. And Adam Kingsley, it takes time to get your game plan going. It looks like they're starting to gel as a football team and understand what he wants. Toby Green's at the top of his game. The senior players, that's what you rely on. They're all in really, really good form. So they're a bit like Hawthorn, probably more advanced, that they're going to scare most sides in the run home.
I've been blown away once, 65 points, Collingwood round 9. That's not the only club that Collingwood's going to do that too. So I think it's an endorsement of the first half a season of Adam Kingsley's coaching that he's betting this down. It's now got enough telling effect to think that they still could shape how the 8 looks.
Well, they blew the Dockers out of the water. Really disappointing from Fremantle, who were really, really sloppy by foot. They've now lost 2 on a trot, and that's after the bye, when before the bye they'd won 4 games in a row. They also weren't switched on defensively in this game, Lloydie. Just really disappointing from Fremantle, who we thought had been sort of making that charge and getting that momentum going.
Yeah, started the season poorly, recovered really well. Some of their best ball users, Damo, like Hayden Young, had a shocker.
He had a shocker. We saw Brayshaw miss a target from 15 metres. This is what they did look like when they were really ordinary in that large section of the first 8 to 9 rounds. And they returned to it last week. And again, we saw the really, really bad version of the Dockers again. And so, no, they've just given themselves now no chance of making.
Is it mindset, Lloydie, do you think? Because they're 4-2 against sides above them and 2-4 below them.
Yeah, I think it is, Nat. And as a coach, you cop skill errors because they're trying to take the game on, but you don't cop this in the first 5 minutes. That's Toby Green being left alone. Players all in the corridor. They're just not alert. They weren't responsive. Finger pointing should be going on. Blocking the corridor. You just don't see this happen in Melbourne wouldn't allow that on King's birthday. They were relentless, Melbourne. Collingwood wouldn't allow for this. Another one, just a player being popped up. Eyes aren't even on the ball by a lot of Fremantle players and the player with the kicker. So they were poor in every single facet of the game.
They certainly were. Right, to Geelong now. And in the opening few rounds of the season, Jeremy Cameron was on fire. We probably spoke about him as being the best player in the competition. He kicked 33 goals in 8 games. In the last 5 matches, though, he hasn't had the scoreboard impact that we have known from him. Just 6 goals in 5 games. And the Cats in that time have gone 1-4. Is that a coincidence or not?
Well, I think that in terms of Cameron, he was keeping them in games in the first part of the season. Yeah, he had a bit of a lapse, but their form hasn't been too bad in this period, Geelong. So he'll rebound hard, you'd think. Jared, I don't know if he's carried anything. I know he was sore through a bit of a period, wasn't he?
He was sore.
Around that time. So, he'll be fine.
Are they too reliant on him, Damo, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. The Hawkins-Cameron combination has been the pillar of their success since Cameron got there. But look, it just hasn't. It is stark, Nat, from those last 5 games to what he started the season with. So, yeah, they're going to need him to perform better than he has been. Absolutely.
Going back to Friday night, no Gunston and no Rich for the Lions. They were both dropped. Come September, Damo, do you think they'll be in the Lions' best 22?
I'd be surprised if they're not. Yeah, particularly Gunston. I know Gunston's at his first year at the footy club, but he's a project player of Chris Fagan's, and the tough call that he made. And look, the messaging may have been slightly misconstrued initially, and that's what happens. But ultimately, the decision was made by Fagan to leave them out of that team. Publicly presented as an all-of-club decision, but it was just Chris Fagan, in my eyes and my reading of it, putting his arms around those 2 players who he's got a lot of time for. One who he brought to the footy club, and one who has helped rejuvenate his own career.
I worry for Gunston because once you lose your pace as a forward, you haven't got a lot because you just can't get off your opponent well enough, and that's what I'm seeing in him. And Rich has got to get fit. he doesn't look fit. So I'm more bullish on Rich than Jack Gunston.
So they're going to have the training block. I mean, should they actually spend some time in the VFL, or is the training block enough to get them back in, do you think?
Well, the way if they keep winning, I think they should have to work their way through the VFL.
All right, time now for quick gives. Lloydie, we start with you. In the second half against the Blues last week, the Bombers moved Merrett forward and had Perkins, Caldwell and Hobbs as their starting mids. What is Essendon's best centre square setup?
Yeah, I think you need 6 to 7 mids going through there, but Parrish comes back in, and and obviously Merrett still's your best midfielder, and then it's a combination of the rest. But you need 7 or 8 to be a good midfield. Back to you, Damo. Come finals time, do you think... Jasper Fletcher, have they found a new one in him, and just how good do you think he can be?
I reckon they have, Lord. I mean, one of the openings created by Gunston and Rich coming out was filled by him, and he looked at home first up. Now, some people might say he might have given this one off, but I'm glad he didn't. He took it on and kicked one of the goals of the season in his debut game. And look, the raps on him were big last year. Will Ashcroft has taken most of the focus about the father-son element to what the Lions are about. But when you see this in round 14 as a debut performance, they've absolutely found one. He looked at home the moment he stepped on the field.
Yeah, he's brilliant. I love watching him during his under-18 year, and he's certainly come good.
And Nat, this is to you. Staggered bye rounds over a few weeks like we currently have, or just have a whole weekend free of footy?
I like what we have now. Stick with it. It's not broken. Lloydie, not since 1963 has the previous year's grand finalists not made the finals. Is it about to happen again with Geelong and Sydney?
Not Geelong. So I think they'll scrape in, but Sydney, put a line through them. Put a line through. Hey, Nat, for you, planning for Big Freeze 10 is already underway.
Yep.
Who would you like to see go down the slide who has not done it before?
I've got 2. Yeah. Chris Hemsworth. Obvious. Dog supporter, obviously. And Josh Giddey. I reckon that would be really fun. What about you two? Who would you like?
Margot Robbie for me. Oh, that's your Chris Hemsworth again.
Okay. That's fine. That's allowed. I'll allow it. Damo?
What's he say about me? I've got Warwick Capper down there.
Oh, no.
And Greg Norman.
Yeah. You know that Warwick Capper would just come as himself. Like he would actually
that's all he needs to do.
Lloydie, the Magpies have all these tours available. Cox, Cameron, Meyer, Chadwick, Stade, Johnston. Do they all fit in, or who misses out?
I'm worried for Ash. I think Ash Johnson's poor performance last week, I'd go with the first 4.
And the finals last year too, where 2 of them were quiet from his perspective.
Yeah. Damo, Crows have the Collingwood at the MCG this Sunday. For their finals credibility, do they need to win it?
Not finals credibility, but high-end potential finish credibility. Yeah, I think they'll make the finals, even if they lose to Collingwood. But yeah, we want to see something from them away from home. Yeah.
Now, don't forget to put your tips in for the AFL's official tipping competition brought to you by Crypto.com. I want some early bold tips, please. Thursday night, Geelong and Melbourne. Lloydie, who are you tipping?
I'll go the Cats.
Yeah, I'll go the Cats one more chance in a big game at the Cattery.
I'm going to tip the D's. Friday night, St Kilda and Brisbane, Lloydie.
The Lions.
Yeah, same again. Yep. I'm just worried about St Kilda at the moment.
Yeah. All right, time now for our Crypto Brave play. And you can't get braver than this. We have to give it to Patrick Dangerfield, the premiership cap. A collapsed lung and cracked rib in the second term, and he played out the game, which you just knew something was wrong there, Damon.
You could tell in that instance when he just couldn't get up, and then you saw him on the sidelines moments later taking a pill or something to try and ease whatever pain he was going through, to then endure that through the half-time break, and then to come out and kick that massive goal at the start of the third quarter and to complete the game and then be required to be taken to hospital where he had to wait, as we know, a long time for treatment. He's a brave man.
Would you have been able to play out a game with a cracked rib and a punctured lung?
I played for a while with a ruptured spleen. So
there you go.
When you were 17.
Now, before we go, Port Adelaide fans can be a really unforgiving bunch, even those under the age of 4. And I want you to take a look at this little girl there in the pink. She looks so cute, but she is absolutely giving it to Ollie Henry, which I absolutely love. Look at her. Super cute, though. And now we also noticed this Swans mum, and she's got a little Brisbane Lions boy, but I'm not one to judge anyone's parenting. This actually gave me cause to self-reflect on what I might be like at the football
and
sometimes.
What did you take out of that self-reflection?
Maybe I might look like that at some point, so maybe I need to pull back. And just to finish things off, we know that fans can give everyone a hard time, but so can coaches, and you've got to see this. For Jack Payne, he throws his mouthguard as well, but check out his coaching, Chris Fagan. Look at this.
That's when you just say, why would you want to be a coach, Shana?
He's aged 3 years in that moment there.
And it's still going. That went on for a while. All right, that is all we have time for on Access All Areas. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again next Monday.